this faithful son who has never transgressed any commandment, who has lived in the Father's home all of his life, and he's nothing like his father. Isn't that shocking?
Yeah.
How can you be obedient, faithful, loyal, and yet have totally different reactions to the Father?
Yeah. Wow.
He did not share his joy. He did not share his compassion. He was full of judgment against his brother, and he was full of criticism of his father.
Yeah.
Faithful, obedient sons who live in the family, who have nothing of the Father's Spirit.
Yeah, wow.
Does that exist, folks?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes.
Jesus predicted it. When I see that, I think Jesus brought that in because he could see what was going to happen to people who call themselves Christians. He could see that down the track there were going to be people who would come to church, be part of the family, not do too many wrong things, and yet have nothing of the Father's Spirit.
Wow.
Faithfulness and obedience doesn't guarantee the kind of person you are. Doesn't guarantee what comes out of your mouth. Doesn't guarantee what you nurture in your heart and spirit. And when I say that, I say, God, I don't want to identify with the brother.
Yeah.
I want to identify with the Father. What about you folks? Anybody else want to
Amen.
join me?
Amen.
I don't want to identify with that brother. I don't want to be that kind of Christian. I go to church. I don't do too many wrong things. I try to be obedient, but I don't want to be like him.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to be like the Father.
Amen.
Because I mean, you're going to get done every time. You don't know. There needs to be judgment. No, folks. There will come a day of judgment, but today is not that day. Have
Yeah.
you got it?
Yeah, come on. That's
So
good.
why be full of judgment if today is not the day of judgment and you're not the judge?
Wow. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Being like the Father. In fact, Jesus was like the Father. He was a perfect reflection. And I want to be the perfect reflection. I'll never be the perfect reflection, but I'd like to be.
Amen.
I'd like to be everything that the Father is in that story. That's what I'd like to be. Did you notice that he didn't go running after the Son when he left? But when he started coming back, he ran towards him. You see, God will let you do anything. He'll let you do the most ridiculously stupid things and not run after you. But when you decide that it's time to come back, and this sitting God becomes a running God and a hugging God. One of the last salvations we saw, in fact it was the last salvation we saw in Paris before we left, was a little old lady, 86 years of age. She has the same name as my wife, Denise. Denise has the same name as her,
Oh.
although she doesn't have the same age. And I don't know how she came the first time, but she was a bit of a frail lady and she was a bit wobbly on her legs when she walked. And one day she turned up in church, this is about the third time, and she turns up to church and she's all bruised and battered on her face. And I said, Denise, what's happened to you? She said, well, I fell down in the street. I thought, oh dear. Anyway, she healed up okay. And one Sunday, just 2 or 3 weeks later, I made the altar call for those who had never given their lives to Jesus to do that. And she put her hand up. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. And so I said, well, come out, Denise. And so a few of the others came forward, and she came out like this, and still a bit wobbly. And I led her in a prayer. And as I had my arms around her, and I'm praying, I could just imagine the father excitedly running down the road towards her, and I called out in my heart, I said, "Father, don't squeeze it too hard, she's frail." And I imagined him just leaning over and taking her in his arms and carrying her back to the Father's home. Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful heavenly Father that we have.
Amen.
I want to be like him. I love some of the little old songs we used to sing. In the 70s, there was a couple of albums that was called To the Chief Musician. Does anybody remember that? The Chief Musician. They have one song that just is the prayer in my heart. And I just like to sing it with you this morning. Just simple words. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you, knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you, knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. Would you sing it with me? The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you, knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you, knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you, loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you, loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you, loving you. I want to love